Stand by to launch FanStream Sports.
3, 2, 1.
Let's start.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to FanStream Sports. Nothing but pure sports. This is the JP Show.
JP, it is so good to hear you back on the air.
Stand by. Now, here's JP.
All right, welcome into a Thursday edition of the JP Peterson Show here as we get it rolling. We got lots to get to today. Bucs at the combine. It feels like an elementary school day for me. A bad report card, a really bad report card for the Bucs. I mean, I don't even think they want to bring that home to mom. So we'll get into that. The Bolts back in action tonight, trying to shake off a horrific third period in Philadelphia. Especially Vassie. We got combine news. We got Rays on the field and off the field news. We got so much to get to. We only have one guest today. Dan Lucas will join us at 11 o'clock. We had a lot yesterday, so a lot more we can get into today specifically. So I'll welcome in my co-host this morning from On3 Sports, Nick Geddes. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, but you went too far back, at least in my situation with the whole report card thing.
Oh, yeah.
If my mom's listening, I know she knows that some of my high school ones look like that just a little bit. sweating it out to get to college sometimes, but it's all good.
You know, believe it or not, I was a really good student. I very much enjoyed school. I got into school, except for math. I freaking hated math, but did fairly well. Usually got good grades. My mom was never on my ass, because I just did it, And school wasn't, public school wasn't that hard, to be quite honest.
Well, we had very different childhoods then.
Yeah. I mean, I saw some of the stuff my kids got at Cambridge Christian. Like, that was hard. But public school in the 70s and 80s, not that hard. I don't know. It just didn't seem that way to me. And FSU was certainly it wasn't Harvard. Let's just put it that way. So I always, my report cards were always pretty damn good. A lot better than what the Bucs got yesterday.
Oh yeah.
A lot better than what the Bucs got yesterday. So I want to dig into that and what it really means. At first blush, it seems like champagne problems. I mean, you've been over there. I've spent a lot of time at One Buc Place. I mean, the indoor facility is fabulous. Right. The building itself has been around since 2006, and people make it sound like, oh, it's archaic. It's less than 20 years old, for God's sakes. I mean, the media facilities are great. They're fantastic. The press conference rooms, the meeting rooms, we go in there, we do all the press conferences there. They're fabulous. We go into the locker rooms. I've been in the locker room there. I've been to Florida State's locker room. They redid their locker rooms. They're very similar. I've been to Falcons locker rooms back in 2013 and 14. The Bucs facilities are better than the Falcons facilities, in my opinion. I've not been. They got dinged for having bugs in the shower and a sauna that's smelly and a locker room that's smelly. I have never been in a locker room that's not smelly. It's a locker room. You play in Florida, like your stuff is gonna smell, not, and it's not like horrific. It's not like walking into a high school locker room. You walk into a high school locker room these days, like you just like, oof. I mean, you get knocked over. I mean, that's bad. You walk into the Bucs locker room, they got a ping pong table in the middle, foosball, every hydration drink you could ever want, every snack you could ever want, healthy snack, of course. I mean, TVs everywhere, big locker room spaces. I mean, I guess they're probably better in other places, but man, what are we bitching about here? I mean,
even if you look across the board, like we're gonna obviously talk about the Bucs situation, but there's a lot of teams that graded poorly across the board. I mean, Kansas City got Fs in a lot of categories, including ownership. I think they finished almost dead last, or maybe they did finish next to Washington.
In ownership?
Yeah, they got an F- in ownership. F-.
Yeah.
And this is the franchise that literally is the dynasty that we're watching in the NFL. So, and then you contrast that to the Dolphins, who got A's across the board just about. They were number one. There's no correlation between the winning franchises and these report cards. And when I looked at these things, I mean, you talk about the locker rooms. I've never been to any of the other facilities, obviously. So when I see One Buck Place, I go, man, this looks really nice, especially after they upgraded it and everything. And the indoor facility on top of that, like, it looks like a state-of-the-art, type of facility.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the other ones look like. I imagine that something that's going on in L.A. looks a lot shinier and better than what Tampa looks like, okay? But it does seem a little bit like champagne problems. The one that was getting a lot of play was the treatment of families.
Yeah.
Portion
they got
of
an F in that, didn't they?
They got an F in that, but listen, there was 4 teams that got an F-, 2 got an F, 3 got a D-, 2 got a D, 5 got a D+. Like, over half the league graded out horribly in treatment of families, and I guess it comes down to because they charge the players
for health for child.
Yeah, $90 per child, which was more than some of the other teams. Like the Chargers are getting flack for charging like $75,
right?
And the Bucs charge $90. I mean, I don't know. It $90, like, is that? I don't have children, so I don't know how much child care costs on the reg.
That's about right. The child care is ridiculous these days.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
But again, these are
here's my thing.
These are millionaires and billionaires that are like,
you make so much money. Shut the F up. You have to pay for child care. So other teams do. I guess 11 teams don't pay for child care. You're making millions of dollars. And even if you're a rookie, you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're complaining about child care. What do you think? Joe, mom, and pop are over here doing. They got working 2 jobs. They got to pay $3,000 a month in childcare. I mean, boo hoo, freaking who? NFLPA. I got news for you. Shut the F up. Nobody cares. And then there was another one, which
and also team travel too. The Bucs came out with an F as well. And I was gonna put out there, I'm like, you're an NFL team. I don't understand how much more, like when it comes to travel, like the hotels you're staying in and the plane that you're traveling on, like, I don't know what else you're asking for, I guess, when it comes to that. And let's also keep in mind when it comes to all these issues, especially treatment of families, this is the same franchise, correct me if I'm wrong, that relocated everybody's, wives and family, kids, dogs, all that for the hurricane 2 years ago. So how bad can they be?
Yeah, that's one. Let's look at Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett got released yesterday. I read his wife's Instagram post thanking the Buccaneers and the organization for everything they've done, and with glowing reports. I mean, come on. What are we talking about? Like, so travel. Okay, I know this was a while ago, but when we used to travel with the Bucs, this was like early 2000s when I was at Channel 8. We flew with the team to Tokyo. Okay. Huge airliners, extra big seats, all that stuff. Like, literally, they did not stop feeding you. Like, they would come around. They gave you a snack when you got on the plane. Then they'd come around with ice cream and other stuff like an hour later, and then another meal, and then snacks, and then a meal. And it was just like, it was ridiculous. It's like flying first class all the time. And you fly charter. You get it. You stay in the best hotels. You stay in the Ritz when you go to New Orleans. You stay at the finest hotels in America when you travel. Now, I found it a little odd that the younger players share rooms. That seems a little odd. You got to pay an extra $1,700 a year if you want your own room. So pay the money. It's a business expense. I mean, you're making a crap ton of money. Now I can flip it around and say, team, you're making a crap ton of money. That's an extra, $100,000 to give the guys their own rooms, and which I think you would want anyway, because guys aren't sleeping well with other guys in the room snoring or doing whatever. It's like you want your own room, and you want them to sleep well the night before the game. So I would think that from a competitive advantage standpoint, I would want everybody to have their own room. Of course, that's younger players. You can do whatever the hell you want if you have your own room. So maybe that's a bad thing, but that just seems weird. It's like, why wouldn't you cover the costs on one end? And then the other part is like, you guys are making plenty of money. Shut the hell up. Everybody, you don't get, I think NFL players and athletes in general, especially now, feel like everything should be free. Like everything should be free. In fact, so many times players will walk into restaurants and bars and expect it to be free. And when they get a check, they're like somehow insulted, like welcome to the real world. And you guys make the most money. Why the hell shouldn't you pay or at least tip heavily? And a lot of them do. Most of them do. But it's just, I don't know, these things, and it's put out by the NFLPA. It's all, done anonymously. So and that's the thing, when we talk to the players, they have nothing but glowing recommendations about the organization. Right. I mean, listen to what Mike Evans says. Look at Baker Mayfield. They're all now, of course, it's different. You don't want to put it out in public, I guess, but still, I mean, come on.
It's also interesting. A lot of the players have always speak highly of Todd Bowles, and we talked a lot about how this team rallied around him. It seemed like the season. I found it interesting. So he got a B- on this scale. Most of the head coaches, actually, like half the league, got an A- or better, or more than half the league, actually. So a lot of people love their head coach. Todd Bowles got a B- in head coach, and he only finished above, and this was going off of, I guess, 2023. He finished above Arthur Smith, Ron Rivera, and Josh McDaniels. So
there's a triumvirate there.
I found that one a little bit more interesting, to be honest with you.
Well, I think that's for a couple reasons. Number one, Devin White. I think, and I know for a fact that there were players that were not okay with the way that was handled. So I think that's the number one problem they have with Todd Bowles is personnel, because guys know they're in the film room. They know who should be playing and who shouldn't be playing and who's making the mistakes and who's not. And I think also, and this is where I think Bowles could probably learn something, is when he's covering for players and not calling out players, what happens is we in the media, and I think a lot of people in the media that maybe aren't as learned as others, we end up blaming the wrong person. And I'm sure I've done it, because if I don't know the call, and I say this when we look at tape, right? And we talk about things on the air. It's like, I don't know the call, but it appears to me, but if you don't know the call, you don't know who's at fault. And sometimes when you're trying to cover up for your players, what you're doing is leaving everybody exposed to criticism that shouldn't be exposed to criticism. And I'm sure when it came to Devin White, that happened a lot. I'm sure that happened a lot where, the defense is getting criticized, other players are getting criticized, and they all know it's Devin White's fault. And then they see their head coach go to the podium and praise him. That doesn't sit well with players. And it's not just with the Devin White situation, it's other things as well. And trust me, the players are sitting there on the sideline going, why aren't we using our timeouts? What are we doing here? Why did we not challenge that call? Players are doing that.
Yeah, and they even like put like a like it said the players feel that Todd Bowles is somewhat willing to listen to the locker room. And in that facet, they graded 25th overall, or he graded 25th overall out of 32 head coaches.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? So, not that they should just definitely be listening to the locker room. I mean, sometimes that can be a bad idea, but I think a B- and that being 26th in the league, I think that's real. That's a problem.
Yeah, and I was gonna say the other thing too is like ownership got a D-, and that's 29th. And the big one was because it's showing an unwillingness to invest in the facilities, which, again, I understand, like, everyone, the big marks against them were the saunas and the locker rooms and all that, but in regards to investing in the facilities themselves, I mean, I think the indoor practice facility was a big game changer.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody universally wanted that, needed that, and they got that, and it's a state-of-the-art looking indoor facility. I don't know how if they count Raymond James Stadium towards it, but they put a lot of money into Raymond James Stadium.
That locker room's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that.
To make it look really nice, and even like the stadium itself. I mean, I think Raymond James Stadium doesn't get its due as a really nice stadium around the league.
Great playing surface. One of the best in the league.
Though. It just is interesting, though, because we already know about the Glazers and how the Man United contingency feels about them. And then they get this grade from the Bucs, and it's like,
yeah.
A little interesting.
Yeah, what's interesting is when you look at the facilities, especially the practice facility, think about this. Think about where these guys are coming from. Alabama, Clemson, Georgia. You know what? They have better facilities.
That's true.
They do. And people say, well, how can that be in college? Because they're not paying the players. They're not paying the players.
Didn't Florida just spend, what was it, $85 million total on just a football-only facility?
Yes. So they're coming from these football factories where they got bowling alleys in their football-only facilities. They've got, all the video games they want. All these things that they have are awesome. And their weightlifting facilities. Yeah, the weightlifting room at FSU is better than the one at the Buccaneers. I mean, that's because they have, that's where they spend their money. They're not paying the players. So how did, back in pre-NIL days, they spend all that money to get an recruiting advantage. So I guess if they're comparing the Bucs facilities to those facilities essentially are not market-based. Like the NFL wants to turn a profit. So they can't just spend hundreds of millions of dollars every 5 years on updating their facilities, where the colleges can, and they use it as a recruiting advantage because they don't have to pay the players. So you got to keep that in mind. They're coming. Wow, I had this in college and it's not as good in the pros. Well, that's why. Does it make it bad? No, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Trust me, I've been in there. It's fantastic. So I don't know. I would think the things that would give me pause are the head coach thing, which, we've talked about. We love Todd Bowles as a human, but, we've detailed his deficiencies as a head coach, and I think it rings true in the report card as well. And the ownership thing, I don't know. I tend to believe my eyes. I know that they know a lot more. They're behind the scenes. But I also think that it's a little bit of being spoiled.
Like I said, the Chiefs ownership led by Clark Hunt got an F-.
Right.
So, and I don't pretend to know the ins and outs of how everything works in Kansas City.
Right.
But I do know 3 Super Bowl rings when I see it.
Yeah.
And I know putting the right people in place, head coach, general manager, cap people.
Yeah.
Obviously the quarterback. I know all those things. So would that bother me as much as I was a Chiefs fan? Like, oh, my ownership got an F-?
Yeah.
Probably not. This whole talk though, and I know times have changed and everything, obviously, and this is going back, just almost 50 years ago. But it's almost like I almost had a callback to, remember when the Bucs first were a franchise back in 1976, and there's some great documentaries and videos about that first training camp.
Yeah.
That the Bucs had.
Yeah.
And what were they staying in? Like worse quality than a Motel 6 or something?
Yeah, it was awful. It was awful.
It was horrendous.
I mean, I was there. I was covering the team when they had the outdoor weight room at One Buck Place. Are you kidding me? Where the jet literally, and the jet fumes are real. Like when the planes were taking off to the north, when they were going to the north, and they would rally at the south end of the runway, which is right where One Buck Place was, and they would gas it up, before they release the brake and head down the tarmac, the runway. I mean, they're like. That's when the fumes would just literally overwhelm you. I mean, it was disgusting. And then the outdoor, and not to mention the noise. By the way, the noise. I mean, when I first went there, I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, this is unbelievable. This is an NFL franchise. This is what I mean." That's what I was coming from Florida State in the 90s, where they had just built the Moore Center, which was really nice. And a new locker room, which was really nice. Facilities, they had it was nice, not like they have today, not even close, but still nice, way better than what the Bucs had. I mean, the Bucs locker room was small. They would literally eat. There was a hallway where, what was his name? Carlos. They had a local caterer would come in and set up tables on the wall in the hallway, and literally frying up sandwiches on a little griddle, making smoothies for the players, little chafing dishes that they would put out for the meals. That was their meal service on a daily basis. So when they moved into the new facility, it was unbelievable, and it still is. So I don't know. I'm not gonna throw the Glazers and the organization under the bus for a lot of these things. It sounds like more champagne problems for the NFLPA in a way, and I think it's a way for them to get improvements. For their union. So they're doing what they should do. But I'm not going to put a whole lot of stock into it.
I think you hit the nail on the head that the influx of money that's been pumped into all these college facilities has, I don't know, it's made, I guess it would say it's made, you could use spoiled. That's probably a better way to put
players.
it.
Yeah.
It's just made things unrealistic, I think, when you get to the NFL and you think that because there's even more money in the NFL than there is in college, that it's going to be just completely even better, but I don't know how much better you could get when it's in college. I don't.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal facility on its own. You can nitpick stuff, and maybe the sauna's not as nice as they would like it, but shut up. But we'll see. We'll see where.
I guess the reason why they got a lot of pushback, because remember about a decade ago there was the whole MRSA outbreak that happened.
Yeah,
in
that's
Lawrence
bad.
Tynes.
That's bad.
I think that's the reason why the optics look bad, is because that happened over a decade ago. And then the big complaint we're seeing now is a dirty locker room, a smelly locker room, bugs, a sauna that players seem to not want to use or whatever. I think that's where most of the flack comes from, to be honest.
Yeah. All right, a couple of things from the combine for the Bucs. Rick Stroud has an article this morning about how Devin White is not one of their free agent targets. I don't know why this is news. I don't know why this is news.
Yeah, I love Jason's answer the other day, by the way. I love
what was it?
They were asked, if you spoke to Devin White, and he's like, no, we have other priorities right now.
Yeah.
Essentially saying it ain't happening.
Yeah. He was cut like midway through the season. When you get benched in your fifth year, for KJ Britt, who, by the way, I think is a much better player. And it was long overdue. In JJ Russell, Devin's probably the fourth best linebacker on the team, maybe fifth behind Servassier. Who knows? He's not a priority, and he wants go. And by the way, can I get some Vegas odds on him getting that $100 million deal? Can I get some odds on that? I'm going to say it's going to be a little below market for him.
I don't even know what value I'd put on him. He's a polarizing one to me.
Yeah.
Because, again, his reputation is still kind of like, more people have caught on to the fact that, hey, Devin ain't that guy that you think he is. But what was it? Ray Lewis at the Pro Bowl said he was a top 5 linebacker in the league.
Yeah.
It's like I see stuff like that, and I'm like, man, Ray should know better, I think.
Ray should know better. Yeah. Well, it just goes I think a lot of these guys, you think Ray Lewis is diving into the film? No. He's got better things to do. He's not that. But the guys that do dive into the film, the PFFs of the world, they know. I'm still shocked that every time Jonathan Vilma does a game, as good of a linebacker as he was and as smart as he is, he continues to say that Devin White is one of the best linebackers in the league. And I'm just like, dude, that's embarrassing you're embarrassing yourself when you talk that way. So it's weird. It is weird. And I think, and Jonathan Vilma, of all people, should know that splash plays do not make an inside linebacker. You want guys that are consistent and doing their job and stopping the run and playing their gap and doing all the right things and, making the tackles in the open field, being able to cover, doing the, not taking the bait on every single, red zone package where they abuse you and score easy touchdowns.
And to be honest, even if Devin had balled out this year and had a really strong season, and let's say he made a Pro Bowl and he made improvements in coverage and all these other things.
Yeah.
I actually tend to think that it still would not change much of the Bucs' pursuit of him because of the way the season unfolded. Nobody envisioned, and I think you're lying to yourself if you thought it was going to happen. Nobody envisioned the fact that after the year that we had with Baker, that all of a sudden we're going to have to dish potentially over $100 million total.
Yeah.
To that quarterback, that particular quarterback. I don't think anybody envisioned that happening.
No.
To be honest with you. So even if Devin had balled out, I still think Devin at best would have been 5th on the priority list behind the big 4 that we already know the Bucs are going to have to spend a lot of their resources to get
Chase McLaughlin too.
Probably.
Yeah.
They're not, obviously the money for Chase would have been a lot different regardless. But yeah, in order of importance, I don't think Devin would have changed much.
Yeah. I don't either. Especially like in terms of a long-term expensive contract.
Yeah, at that position.
Hell no. No, especially when KJ Britt comes in and plays better than he does. And it's going to be a much lower cost option in all the other priorities. No, it wouldn't have changed a thing. You're 100% right. And that's as it should be. So if that's in a development at the combine, I don't think it's a development anywhere really.
Yeah,
but I don't think anyone expected him to be back.
Yeah, I do think it's clear though, and Todd Bowles he was pretty blunt about it. He said that he was frustrated all season long with the 4-man front and the pressure that he got from those packages.
Yeah,
we already knew this, but it's clear that this is priority number 1, and I've been saying it. If the Bucs are going to get to the next level, you've got to get a bona fide stud of a pass rusher. And in a perfect world, Yaya Diaby is a 2, and you find a 1. And it's difficult to do, but it seems like the Bucs are going to do that. And listen, everybody meets with all these guys at the combine. So, okay, the Bucs met with Jared Verse. Cool. They're not going to get Jared Verse, but they're going to do their due diligence just about on every pass rusher possible to try to get one of those potentially at 26. So their priorities are in the right place of what they have to get to upgrade this football team.
I love the fact that, it's kind of twofold. Like the edge class is kind of downplayed, right? There's not that many great ones in this draft is what everybody says. And, the thing about edge is there's guys there. You just don't know who they are, right? Sometimes a guy like Shaq Barrett is going to get stuck behind a Von Miller. It's going to be undrafted, get no D1 offers. He's just a different kind of cat, a late bloomer, so to speak. There are guys like that in the draft. You got to find them. And I'm not sitting here telling you who they are. I don't know who they are. It's not my job to I don't have time to break down 10,000 hours of film. That's what the Bucs scouts are doing. So they're there. Look, the Bucs found one in the 3rd round in Yaya Diaby, right? So I'm not sitting here saying that he's already an all-pro, but that kid is super raw. And we saw flashes of, we always say great shows up early, right? Well, that showed up early. He definitely plateaued as the season went on. But he's got a huge upside.
Yeah, the difference is between what I mentioned when I was talking to Scott on the Pewter Report podcast a couple weeks ago, when we were talking about Yaya, is like he's in a certain tier of player, and like I use like pass rush win rate as a good stat. And his win rate, I think, as a pass rusher was down at like 7% or something like that. Mm-hmm. Whereas the guy that I'm talking about that you ideally need, Will Anderson, the same draft class, he got drafted 3rd overall, I believe, in Houston.
Right.
His pass rush win rate was almost 15%. Like, that is like what I'm talking about. When I say that Yaya is a 2, it's not a knock. It's just the reality of what he is right now. And if you want to get one of those special guys, that's what I'm talking about. It looks like Will Anderson. But again, the Bucs are not in a spot necessarily to get one of those guys. And I don't foresee them, nor do I really want them to throw the money at a guy like a Brian Burns or someone like that on the free agency market. I just don't think they're going to be able to.
No. Look, and I understand you're going to overpay in free agency anyway, but those top edge guys, it's just too much money. It's like, okay, we're not going to get 18 sacks from this guy, but if I can go find a guy, and you've mentioned a couple of them that'll be on the market, that, are more specialists, right?
Right.
I can get 12 and a half from those guys for $6 million, having one edge rusher that can beat a guy every time, like a JJ Watt, like Max Crosby, having those guys, it helps. And Todd Bowles knows this. It just helps you tremendously. You can get pressure with 4. It just allows you to do so much more defensively. But that being said, the Bucs have a lot of weapons in terms of pass rushing skills. And I think Kalijah Cansey is one of them, and he's just going to get better and better. I mean, the more you look at his tape this year, that kid is going to be special when he learns and has a full off season, gets a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. I think he's going to be phenomenal. Vita Vea can definitely pick it up. There's more in Yaya Diaby. We're not sitting here waiting for JTS to do anything. That ship has sailed. But they've got some things. They're going to have to, I think, pick at least 2 guys that they think can rush the passer this year from the outside. I don't know where they're coming from or who they are. Sign one in free agency and take one in the draft. So,
right. And you got to get more pressure from the outside. But even then, it's like, I saw some of the guys that said they met with the Bucs formally at the combine, and like Braden Fisk was one of them. Your guy from Florida State, and we know how much of a game record he was.
Love him.
And I was like, man, it's not a big need necessarily because you already have Vita and Kalijah, but we know the Bucs rotate those guys. And I was like, just the idea of the Bucs rotating those 3 guys together in the middle, it just seems like a cool thing. Probably unlikely though. And even the guy,
I love that kid. He's such an effort guy, and he's talented, man.
Right.
He's talented.
And even the kid Johnny Newton from Illinois, who's probably the first or second best defensive tackle in the class. Grew up in Clearwater, he said.
Yeah.
Buccaneer fan. He cited Warren Sapp as a guy he grew up loving and to watch and all that. I mean, sometimes I really don't care where the pressure comes from, but at the same time,
Right.
I think we have to acknowledge that they just have to get more bodies in that edge position.
No question about it. By the way, Baker Mayfield, I don't know if you've seen this over the last 48 hours. It seems every show that I watch, national show, is doing something on Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
Like yesterday, I was watching Speak for Yourselves with Shady McCoy. And they were talking about, and Acho, I think, is on that show as well, Joy Taylor. They were talking about what's the best fit for Baker Mayfield. And, everybody's like, look, Tampa's a great fit for him. He's perfect. And although Shady, I think, was more like, he's just a dude. He's just a dude. I think, Acho was saying, you got to go look at the film and really break down what Baker did this year with the team offensively, with a first-year play caller, not the best interior offensive line, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the things that we've talked about all year long. And RG3 did a great breakdown this morning. He said he went through the last year and a half of tape, 2 years of tape on Baker, obviously this year being the most of it, and came away just super impressed, Feels like he's got a huge upside. He's got a lot to work with in Tampa. Really loves, what he did this past year. In fact, he just gave me a fist pound on my reaction to his breakdown. How about that? Thanks, RG3. Appreciate that. Because I tweeted this out, and I go watch the breakdown because I think he's really spot on. And he picked a couple of plays in the Packers game where, Bake was just spot on with his reads, setting up defenders, making big throws, especially that touchdown to Mike Evans. We talked about this, that little skinny post in that game against the Packers.
Yeah.
It's just my favorite throw of the year, and he broke that down. And I told him, I said, great breakdown, RG3. That first touchdown throw to Evans was my favorite throw of the season. It's indefensible. The read and sell on the safety was perfect, but the high inside ball placement and velocity to a 6'5" wide receiver is just virtuoso. We love Baker. There's more in there with him. And with continuity and coaching, who knows how good he can be. And he gave me the fist pound and said, exactly. And I respect RG3 the way he breaks down a lot of these tapes because he gets into it. He really does and knows what he's talking about. And I think anybody, and I hear a lot of, Colin Cowherd was talking crap about Baker yesterday about, how he's just, he's not good late in games. He doesn't know, he doesn't have the Patrick Mahomes gene. Like, who freaking does? Who does?
God, don't get me on a tangent. I'm at the point in life now where if I perceive the fact that you are not sitting down and grinding the tape, and I'm not going to act like I sit here and watch a ton of tape. I dabble, okay? Because admittedly, learning football is very difficult.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know everything. But when I hear people like Colin Cowherd get up on national TV and give his takes on quarterbacks, it's so surface level. That's all it is.
It's surface.
He was making arguments 2 weeks ago of how Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy were the same exact player. Okay. And I think that anybody with a brain could tell you that ain't the case.
Or eyes. Talk about difference in accuracy. Seriously? And anticipation. Right. Come on. Jesus. It's not even close.
Right.
Yeah. And so, Baker's getting a lot of love. And is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I don't think it changes his perspective at all. He knows where he needs to be. He knows the spot that he needs to be. I think, is he getting wooed by other places? I think he probably is. As his teams, at first teams are going to go to the combine and we're going to, there's more than 3 quarterbacks in this draft. There's the Bo Nix is going to be our guy, or, Michael Penix is going to be our guy, and they'll fall in love a little bit. And then as they start grinding or whatever, they'll fall out of love. And then they'll say, you know what, he may not be there, or he may not be the guy. Who's out there we got tape on in the NFL? Oh, there's Baker. Let's go after him. I'm talking about teams like the Raiders, the Steelers. I think that we've been talking about this for a while. Justin Fields is going to Atlanta. That really feels like that's happening. Everybody up there in Atlanta kind of feels like that's happening. That's where everything's moving in that direction. And I think I think he would be a great fit up there. That would be a super athletic, dangerous offense with Justin Fields at the helm, and very formidable for the Bucs to defend. So I think that's happening. I think it's great. It's for them. It fits their franchise dynamic in Atlanta, energizes the fan base. Bring in Baker. I think there'd be a little bit of a backlash between the options of the two of them. So I don't think Baker's really a fit in Atlanta. So I think this is where this is headed. And if you're a Bucs fan, go watch what RG3 is saying. Go watch what Dan Orlovsky is saying. Go watch what the guys that are really breaking down tape are saying about how Baker played last year, because during the season, you'll get a slice of it. But they're looking at, 16 games a week, right? It doesn't now in the offseason. They can really go, all right, I'm going to break down Baker Mayfield today. Give me all his tape, from the whole year. And they can really do a deep dive into him. And you're seeing some of this stuff come out. And I think you're going to see more of it. Putting Baker in a really, really good light. Was he perfect this year? No.
Yeah.
He was beat up at times.
And the thing is, it's like, what's the alternative?
Exactly.
What's the alternative? Like, I don't want to say the Bucs are almost like forced into keeping Baker Mayfield, but in a way they kind of are. It's the same way how like quarterback discourse around the league gets really overblown. Like, people talk a lot about, the Cowboys need to move on from Dak Prescott, for example, or the Dolphins with Tua. It's like, listen, I don't know if those guys are ever going to get you to a Super Bowl, right? At least they're not going to carry you there. You're going to have to like really put a lot of things around them, and they're going to have to do their part when it matters most. But their overall body of work is too good to just say, yeah, we're going to blow it up and we're going to go try to find somebody else who could be better, when in all likelihood, you're going to continue to try to keep finding that guy, and you're going to be like, man, I guess we probably should have kept Dak, or we probably should have kept Tua. It's the same way how I feel about Baker Mayfield and a lot of quarterbacks in this league. I don't know if Baker Mayfield is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, okay? My gut probably tells me no. But those guys don't fall on trees.
Exactly.
They don't. Somebody's got to play the position.
Right. No, you're 100% right. And if the Bucs had the second pick in the draft, we'd be having this discussion. Do we want to keep Baker, or do we want to, invest in a young kid? And I'd tell you this, if that was the situation right now for the Buccaneers, I'd say, let's sell the pick. If you can give me 3 first-round picks and I can keep Baker as my quarterback, I'm taking the 3 first-round picks, or the two first-rounders into 2. And I can go get, 2 edge rushers, go get an edge rusher, a center, and another wide receiver. I mean, think of the things that you could get and keep Baker Mayfield. Now you're building one of the best rosters in the league.
Right. Like, if
you're making the right pick.
If the shoe were on the other foot, and I know this is just totally like probably irrelevant, but if the shoe were on the other foot, and let's say it wasn't Justin Fields in Chicago, it was Baker Mayfield instead, and we're saying everything was identical of the season Baker had, I don't know if the Bears are making that pick for a quarterback. Not
what you can get, a king's ransom for Caleb Williams, who's completely unproven. I mean, he looks good, but look how many quarterbacks have we seen, taken number 1 or in the top 3 that were can't miss guys.
How many number 1 overall picks at quarterback went on to justify the hype?
I think in the last 20 years, number 1 over, or 25 years, I think I saw the list the other day, number 1 overall picks to win a Super Bowl, Peyton Manning was the only one. But I'm trying to remember if that was, because it was shocking.
Just the ones that went on to have great success. I mean, Elway, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, but it was short-lived.
Yeah.
Certainly Joe Burrow's on that trajectory, but listen, I mean, this franchise knows it best. How many number 1 picks have the Bucs picked at quarterback, and it's never worked out? Jameis Winston being one of them. So
it's more likely than not going to work out at that position. So if you can get 3 other quality players, and you've got a quarterback that did what Baker did last year, then I just and he has a track record in the league, and it's also the intangibles too. How he fits with the team, and even Coward mentioned this yesterday. In a snarky kind of way, I might add. He's like, Baker's a great fit in Tampa because, things are loose down there. Ybor City, Ybor City at night. It's loose. It's a loose franchise. Baker's a perfect fit for that franchise. So, yeah, they're good together.
Someone tell Colin that, like, Ybor City. Nobody goes to Ybor City.
The dude's stuck in 30 years ago and thinks he's got some updated version of Tampa, Tampa Bay. I mean, just of the organization and the city. It's changed a little since you've been here, Colin. Just, a little update. It's been 25 years since you've been here, 30 years. Yeah. So whatever. I just think it's interesting that he's getting a lot of play. All right, let's hit our first break. We got lots more Bucs stuff coming your way from the Combine. So we're going to get to that. I want to get into the race. They just had some breaking news. Josh Lowe out 2 weeks. with an injury of some type. They say they expect him to be left hip inflammation. So we'll dive into that. Ryan Pepio pitched yesterday, so we'll get into that. So on and off the field, and some interesting things happening with the stadium as well. We'll talk about that. Lots more to get into. We're brought to you by the Jeeves Law Group in our first hour, JEEVESLawgroup.com. Scott Jeeves, hell of a guy. Love him. Comes on the show often. We'll have him on in a few weeks. He told us all about the FSU lawsuit, predicted correctly that was going to be settled out of court, and they're on their way to getting that done. But if you have any issues at all, and if you've been involved in an accident, your car's been totaled, you've had issues with insurance companies with a claim, it's the Jeeves Law Group, JEEVES Law Group. They are local, they are trusted, and they get results. Go to JeevesLawGroup.com, JEEVESLawGroup.com, and can contact them through the website. Tell them JP sent you. All right, back in 3 with much more here on the JP Peterson Show. JP here for my friends at your local Synovus Bank, and I do mean friends, and I do mean local. One of the local managers in Tampa is John Acosta, big fan of the show, and I've known him for over 40 years. He's been in local banking since 1983. You talk about developing relationships. You don't stick around for that long unless you're doing things the right way and have a great reputation, and that's the focus company-wide at Synovus. Big enough to handle any complex international transaction, but small enough to answer the phone when you have an urgent question about your business or personal account. And for personal accounts, they have a very easy app that works great. You can do everything online. And for large or small businesses, you will get that personal touch and services to help build your business, taking your dreams and aspirations from the whiteboard to reality. We can make that happen. Let us show you how. For a get-acquainted meeting to open a business or personal account, just call John or go to Synovus.com to find out where your local branch is. All right, this is for all you guys who don't want to go to the gym and do 5,000 crunches. At Bay Area Modern Medical Center, you can get on the new True Body machine where you can reduce fat and tone up your muscle. It's like doing 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Define your body as you see fit. True Body offers personalized muscle stimulation that delivers the equivalent of those 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Just get in touch with them at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Chris Lugo and the team over there will set you up on True Body and get amazing results. Non-invasive with comfortable and little to no pain and zero downtime. You can isolate and target those areas that you want to improve and treat multiple areas simultaneously. It's an amazing machine, so check it out at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA two-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson, so if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to GeddesGordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com or call 813-485-6808.
Let's go.
Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
Show brought to you by the great folks at Italiano Insurance, a best customer service in the land. Give them a call at 813-877-7799. Obviously, they do a great job with home insurance, auto insurance, but they also do business insurance. So if you've started a side hustle or you've had the same business insurance for a long time and you've never shopped it around, because the premiums can be really, really different. They really can. And if you've been with the same company for a while, they've probably been inching those premiums up each and every year, and you just pay them. Well, shop it around. See what you can do. You might be able to save thousands. One guy saved $26,000 a year on his business insurance by shopping it with Italiano Insurance. Obviously a big business, but that's a lot of quiche, right? Shop it around, 813-877-7799, and get that great customer service that they give you at Italiano Insurance. All right, JP Peterson, along with Nick Gaddis here this morning as we're heading through a Thursday here. Got lots more to get to, but I want to stop and do a little bit of comments from the commenters. We welcome you guys in each and every morning, so we really appreciate you jumping in. TJC22, good to see you as well. Christopher Cole, good morning to you. Nathan, Thomas, all of our people. This one has got to be talked about. Good morning. Nick, can you do stats on Vassie in goals since JP moved to Orlando versus living in Tampa? Ha ha. Maybe the reason for the decline, win-loss record, lower save percentage. See you tonight. That's irresponsible, John Hill. It's not my fault, and I will be back in Tampa soon.
It is your fault. I think. I think if we point to one moment where the Lightning steered off track, I think it's when you moved to Orlando.
No, I don't think
that's what happened. But
I still spend plenty of time in Tampa Bay. Still my work home. I just have a beautiful home over here with the lovely Ashley and the kids. Tom's Casper said Hugh Culverhouse used to have to pay a pay soda machine and remove sweet and lows because they used too many. I mean, you players are complaining now. I'm like, wait a minute. I got news for you. Derek Brooks is probably looking at these.
Yeah, where would Hugh have been on this report card, man?
My God, are you kidding me? Is there a rank below F? F minus? It's funny because I was perusing Twitter. It's like there's a lot of comments on the childcare thing, and it is kind of weird. It's like billionaires can't afford childcare for their employees, on a Sunday afternoon. You think about it. The Glazers just sold, Man United, 25% of Man United for what, $1.5 billion.
Right. But you know what's interesting though, because you want to know one of the big complaints about the Glazers is the facilities at Man United are well below par.
Yeah.
Like they're talking about like tearing down Old Trafford and having to like build a new stadium and like the training grounds. Like this is all stuff that Ronaldo, when he came back, like basically said was all true. He came back and he was like, it's the same as it was 15 years ago. It's outdated. It stinks. And so it's kind of the same complaints for both of their franchises. And of course they have boatloads of money to spend on these things. I mean, it's not the hill that I'm going to die on, I guess, if I was a player.
Right.
And again, I'm not in their shoes. I'm looking at it from the outside. But it also, you can make the argument, okay, you guys are all billionaires. Why can't you cover the cost for these simple things, I guess? For
the millionaires.
Right.
It's like, what are we arguing over here?
Yeah.
That's where I come at it is from this, for most of us, I'm a ham and egger, as are you, Nick. I'm laughing at all of you.
You're a ham and egger, huh?
Yeah, I am. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I am definitely a ham and egger. I used to make some decent money in this business. It's a little bit harder these days. But that's fine. I love what I do. No complaints. But this is what we're doing. Millionaires and billionaires are arguing over who's going to pay for the childcare. Shut up, both of you. How about that? I don't want to hear anything from either one of you. Just settle it amongst your millionaire selves. All right. We'll figure it out. Nathan Elliott says the Bucs do not micromanage individual player lockers. Gerald McCoy would use 2 lockers to store his stuff, and it always looked like a dirty hamper. Levante always has a neat locker. He's right. Some of these guys that are complaining are slobs.
He used to tell me that Warren Sapp, when he used to do interviews in the locker room, he would just be spitting his tobacco juice on the actual floor. Or did he put it? Did he have the courtesy to
on
put
my
a towel
shoes
down?
most of the time?
On your shoes. There you go.
No, so yeah, he would put a white towel down in front of his locker, and have a towel covering him, everything else out. And he would put a big dip in. And we would sit back from the white towel, and he would spit into the towel while he was doing an interview. Spit at us. If he didn't like the question, he on your shoe. No, he didn't. I mean, at the time, it was like, whatever. That's what he wants to do and do it. It's not. I'm not going to take offense to it, but
yeah, you're going to tell Warren Sapp, hey Warren, can you stop spitting on me, please?
Nobody else did that. Nobody else needed a dip right after the game. Maybe it was maybe it was a brilliant way to get space. Because guys, you get in this closed locker room situation, the media's all up on you. You got 25 cameras. It can get a little, dicey. Right. So create some space by doing that. I never said Warren wasn't smart. He could be very rude at times to a lot of people, but nobody crowded him. That's for sure. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, and I love how Nikita Kucherov deals with it too, by the way, in a completely different way. You crowd him, he's just going to give you a one-word answer until you go away.
Right.
That's how he gets out of that.
Yeah, that's another way it works. All right. Nathan Elliott says if Devin White had played up to his potential, he would have chased the money elsewhere. He made it clear that Devin White did not want to be here. The money did not matter. It's true. It's one of the main reasons I hated all of that offseason stupid, passive-aggressive Instagram shenanigans. It's like, you got a problem with the organization, call a press conference,
The one thing that bothers me about, I guess, today, my generation of player is the whole social media thing. I got to go on social media to complain, or I got to scrub like the whole Justin Fields thing where he was scrubbing his Instagram and he unfollowed the Bears. And then he's like, I don't know why you understand why he's making a big deal out of it. I just wanted not to see any football things. And it's like, I mean, you really think people aren't going to make a big deal out about that, Justin? That you unfollowed your team?
Yeah.
On social media?
Exactly.
Whether it's a big deal or not, of course it's going to become a big thing.
Of course it is. It's passive. And then you go on the air and you go, oh no, man, I just wanted to, I didn't want that on my timeline. What?
I've never heard of that before. I just wanted to separate myself from football. I didn't want it on my timeline. Nothing from my team.
Put your phone down, So silly. Yeah, to not even you do something publicly, and then when you're asked about it, you don't even step up and say it. How about you just say, you know what? They're acting like they don't want me, so why should I be loyal to them? They're talking about trading me. They don't want me around. Okay, fine, move me. What's wrong with saying that?
Yeah, he basically said that after, though.
Right. So fine. So don't do the passive aggressive stuff. Just come out and say it like a man. I don't get it. You're gonna ruffle some feathers. So what? They're the ones who've been indifferent about you and may take Caleb Williams. Good. It's business. Why does everybody feel like don't hurt their feelings? Come on. Here's a good friend, TJ Reeves, steps up, said, remember we talked off air to Luke Easterling together last April, and he went directly to Trey Palmer as a sleeper wide receiver that the Buccaneers would likely go to late rounds. How'd that turn out? Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. When they drafted him, I started looking into him, I'm like, how the hell did this guy last till the 6th round? The fastest receiver in the draft.
A lot of drops.
Put up 1,300 yards. Yeah, Mike Evans had a lot of drops last year.
But we did see Trace drops, though, a little bit last year. He's got to pick that up.
We did. Still 6th round. It was a steal.
Yeah.
John Hill says Shaq leaves. Pap joins board of directors. What?
Papa John's
joined. Oh, Oprah leaves Weight Watchers board as well. What's going on there?
Well out of my pay grade here.
Interesting. Colin Cowherd thinks he's the quarterback whisperer. He's the biggest joke on the planet. I would have to agree with that. I used to be a big fan, not so much anymore. Cowherd trashed Purdy daily. No matter what he did, Cowherd would trash him. The same with Baker. Yeah, it's like the dude is just winning games and going to Super Bowls, and you just cannot say I was wrong where Colin was wrong. San Otto Gato, new in here. Good to see you. Bucs were 2 games away from the big show, so they were closer than most thought. Hell yeah, they were. Remember when what was it, the beginning of the season when the Madden simulation predicted they would go to the NFC Championship game and everybody laughed?
Yep.
Right? Remember that?
Yeah.
And they also said that Baker would throw for 4,000 yards and I think 38 touchdowns or 35 touchdowns. They were damn close.
Yeah, they've already started though this year. Everybody's already saying that if the Falcons get Justin Fields, they're the favorite to win the division. And I don't see that yet. I just don't see that yet.
Nathan says Colin Cowder was the first one that sharded all over the Bucs last year before the season began. His comments are only to get a reaction, good or bad. I think that there's definitely something to that, but I just, he should be a little bit better. That's all. Where do you think Baker's contract ends up at, JP? I think it ends up at I've been waffling a little bit on this, but I think it's in the $30 to $35 million range annual. I'm thinking 100 guaranteed. It's a little bit north of what Geno Smith's contract was. Because it's interesting. It's like you dive in and you're like, wow, Baker had a great year. But do you really are we committing, $40 million a year like we did for Daniel Jones, which is just a stupid contract? I mean, you start comparing these contracts, but you can't, right? I mean, Daniel Jones, it's teams are in different situations at different times, and they make stupid moves. Just because Daniel Jones got $40 million doesn't mean that's the standard now, right? And would somebody else offer him more? I don't think so.
Well, I do like I don't know if you saw this, the breakdown from Spot Track. They did a quarterback breakdown or contract breakdown projection type of thing, and they had it at 4 years, $120 million total. And then $53 million guaranteed at signing. And they had it spread out, though, to where the cap hit for this year would be $6.25 million, and then it would jump to $11.75 in 2025, and then it would be backloaded, so $42 million in 2026, and then $45 million in 2027.
Which,
if they got
by then the cap's going to be $300 million, by the way.
Correct. So if they were able, I think that knowing what the Bucs have in their front office and the way they usually do structure things, this seems more likely. It's not going to be a straight up 4 years, $120 million. We're paying you $30 million per. I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm just thinking about what the annual payout looks like. I mean, cap hit's a totally different deal on how they structure the contract.
Correct.
I'm just talking about with real costs. Not kicking the can down the road, really far. But I think in real costs, I think that's about where he goes.
Yeah,
they're saying only 54 total guaranteed.
53 million guaranteed at signing, and then it says 85 million practically guaranteed.
Okay, yeah. See, I think that's where it's about. It's about 100. I think it's more than that, because I don't know if Spot Track is factoring in the 20%, 15% increase in the cap. So just automatically everything, well, the agents will tell you that, pops up an extra 15%. Yeah. So I just think it's near. And by the way, so that it's not going to kill you, and especially in the salary cap early on. Four voidable years at the back end with a lot of the bonus money up front, which he gets that $45 million check. So yeah, I think that's the way it works. And Baker is doing backflips. I mean, Baker Mayfield. People cannot forget this. He was cut by the Panthers, and I still heard that narrative yesterday from Shady McCoy. What's he on his 4th team in 4 years? I mean, how good? It's like you got to put that in context, man. One, you're kicked out by a horrible team in Cleveland, and number 2, you're kicked out by a horrible team in Carolina with a disaster of a mess. So it's not like it's not like the Rams kicked you out the door. You left for a better opportunity. The Rams, I think, would have loved to keep you if they had cap room as a backup quarterback to Matthew Stafford, but you weren't going to be a backup quarterback. And, it's not like the Rams cut you and didn't like what you did for them. I think they would have loved to have you back if they didn't have a starting quarterback already in place, right? So keep it in context. It's such a lazy take, Shady McCoy. And, and when given an opportunity in a somewhat stable franchise, the guy balled out. Simple as that. I just, I don't know.
Yeah, and by the way, if a contract was something like that, 4 years, $120 million, that is still relatively a bargain for a starting quarterback in this league. We got quarterbacks that are making $60 million now, and he'd be making half that. There's not too many quarterbacks realistically that you're going to get as a starter for a long-term period of time as this would be, and you would keep it to $30 million.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, Dan Lucas is going to join us. He's been in that shower before at One Buck Place. I'm going to ask him if he saw the bugs there. I don't know if he's been in the sauna. I did a promo once there in the whirlpool with Cadillac Williams, but I did have a bathing suit on. So we'll see how far into the facility Lucas has gotten. Quick break. When we come back, we'll chat about that and much more with Dan. We'll get into the Rays as well. We're brought to you by the Gold and Diamond Source. They're having their 40th anniversary sale, up to 40% off many of the great low-priced items they already have. It's a fantastic sale as they celebrate Julie and Steve Weintraub owning this business for over 40 years. It's the Gold and Diamond Source, always the best place to shop for that engagement ring, as Nick and I both know. 3800 Ulmerton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com. Back in 3 with Dan Lucas. Stay with us.
JP here for the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves. Call for a free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES. We're local, we're trusted. The law firm brings over 80 years of combined legal experience focusing on clients in Tampa Bay, the state of Florida, and national class action cases. If you're injured, get that free case evaluation, no cost to you. The Jeeves Law Group's focus is on auto, truck, and motorcycle accidents, as well as class action and consumer protection law. Scott Jeeves is a board-certified civil trial lawyer and a certified circuit court mediator practicing in the Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. You hear him on the show all the time. Great guy, big Gator fan, and great for the community. The Jeeves Law Group is a highly skilled team with years of experience that will apply their skills, expertise, and knowledge to assist individuals who have been in an accident with compensation for damages, lost wages, medical expenses, pain and suffering, and property damage. Get that free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES.
JP here for the Gaddis Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Gaddis. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA two-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Gaddis Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Gaddis and the Gaddis Gordon Group, because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to gaddisgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com, or call 813-485-6808. JP here for my good friends at Italiano Insurance, and they did it again. Once again, Italiano Insurance stepping up with the best customer service. I was in a bind. My old insurance company, my auto insurance, jacked up my rates, so I called Charity at Italiano Insurance, and she stayed till 9:30 at night until she got my insurance done. And guess what? She searched all these companies for me. I didn't do the work. She did. Saved me $1,000 on my annual premium. $1,000, folks. That's real money. And that's what you get at Italiano Insurance. Great customer service. And here's another note for you, by the way, with hurricane season up. 40% of people in Florida are underinsured. That means if you have something happen during a hurricane and you need replacement costs, you're going to get 40% less than you deserve. Can't let that happen. Call the folks at Italiano Insurance and get them to help you out in both those regards. It will save you money and keep you insured properly. That's 813-877-7799. Great folks in the community, been doing it for over 60 years. Italiano Insurance, 813-877-7799.
Let's go.
Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
This is The Strike. 102.5 WHPT, HD2 Sarasota, Tampa, St. Pete.
Welcome back to the JP Peterson Show, and thanks to all you listening over the beautiful station that is 102.5 The Strike, the Lightning's new station right there. It's the HD station of the Bone, 102.5, so lock that in. You can hear from Newport Richie to Sarasota to Orlando. Trust me on that. It's a beautiful station. You can listen to us live each and every day on the terrestrial radio as well as all these other places. Let's welcome in our good friend Dan Lucas from News Channel 8 to chat with us about all things Buccaneers. Now, Dano, I know during the promos that you cut with the Buccaneers that oftentimes you get access to parts of the facility that some of us don't, because I've been there. I did a promo with Cadillac Williams in that cold tub. I should have got paid extra hazard dues. So have you been in the showers of One Buc Place? Have you seen the bugs? Is it smelly? What's it like?
I don't frequent the showers at the Bucs facility, but I've never been in the showers there. But it's funny. I do remember you doing the cold tub piece, and I'm thinking, years later, you could be one of those dudes
with MRSA
class action. Yeah, exactly. You're like, have you noticed something wrong with you?
No, that itch just has not gone away.
Yeah. Exactly.
The sore never healed either. I don't know what the hell's going on.
I'll tell you that the MRSA thing I had forgotten about. That was obviously a separate issue from this player voting thing, but man, what a wild time that was, and with the kicker, he lost part of his foot.
Yeah.
Because
who was the big offensive guard too that we got that paid all that money from the Saints?
Yeah, he had his name has escaped me, but I know his locker was the first one next to the showers.
Yeah, so there you go.
It was one of the first two lockers by the little doorway to the shower.
So, I mean, again, you've been in that facility a gazillion times, as have I. I mean, it seems nice to me. Seems like, that looks like a nice work environment for me. I wouldn't be bitching and moaning about it.
I'll tell you, we've been in the locker room before. I personally think the locker room's immaculate.
Yeah.
I think it's already undersized. Yeah. Especially during camp, they have to set up temporary lockers within the locker room, but they've tried to give it kind of a loungy feel.
Mm-hmm.
They got sofas in there. Guys are doing whatever. Sometimes they're shooting hoops in there.
Yeah.
I think that they probably need a different player lounge area that's completely separate that the media doesn't see.
Yeah.
But as far as the locker room itself, the people that take care of that place, they're the ultimate professionals. That's what is baffling to me. The building has aged. Like any building, for sure. You got to keep up with that. That's on the
less
Glazers.
than 20 years old. I mean, how long are building? Are we supposed to get a new facility every 10 years now?
Well, I think you need to, anytime there's an office place, an office workspace in any industry, it just needs a good cleaning. At some point here, we're talking deep cleaning, and I don't know if that's been done, but I know the people that work for the Bucs, who are all in the different categories of this NFLPA voting, these people care about their jobs and they care about the players, which ultimately the entire organization is there to make sure that the players can win football games and that the organization, achieves its maximum potential. I think it all comes back to what are you willing to spend on your facilities and also the care for your employees, for lack of a better term, because that's what they are in this instance. And I think that there were some areas where the Bucs fell short. I think it's not just the Bucs, and the Bucs weren't even the worst.
Right.
It's definitely. I saw the results, and I thought this was a little bit of airing the dirty laundry that I'm not usually in favor of that, but the spirit of this vote is to let free agents know what they're getting into as far as if you go to this team, obviously when you go into free agency, what can you make money wise? What is the team competitive? Do I have a chance to win a championship? And then what's it like in the workplace? What's can I my wife and kids are part of this too.
Yeah.
What's in it for me? That's what this survey was supposed to tackle, but they make the results public, and I think it's the NFLPA's way of shaming the organizations to try and do something about it. Even the Bucs put out a statement saying they take pride in a great workplace. And I can tell you from my own experience, we've done stories with the chefs.
Yeah.
The people in the staff, the food got a C or C minus, the cafeteria. These guys, there is unbelievable care put into the meals all day with total sports nutrition in mind, options. I remember one guy years ago, he said, we put kale out here as a vegetable. Nobody ate it.
Shocking development.
So he ground it up. They grind it, whatever the word is. They chopped it up and put it into a potato soup. Served it the next day, and it went. It was gone within minutes.
Hey, that's an old restaurant secret, baby. If you can't sell it, chop it up and throw it in the soup, and they'll eat that stuff.
Exactly.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
But I'll say this: if the showers are that bad, then if you're the Glazers looking at this today, I'm walking through the showers with somebody with a notepad, and I'm going, "What's going on here? Is this a plumbing issue? Is this a ventilation issue?" Yeah. And I'm working on it. But the problem is that the Glazer reputation for putting money into its ventures is not well thought of. And the best example is overseas in Manchester, where they're being ripped. You think if the one Buck is falling short of standards, their Carrington training facility for Manchester United should be torn down.
Yes.
And rebuilt, and the stadium, Old Trafford.
Well, it's 1,000 years old.
Be torn down. Yeah, it should probably be torn down as well, and built a new stadium there. There's just a lot of money and resources that go into this, and I think that if you want to show care for your people, that's the best way to do it. So I was interested in those scores. They're a lot lower than I thought they were going to be.
It was funny too. You mentioned the thing about these are meant to steer free agents and to make the best decisions, and I'm thinking, for a team that graded out so poorly, they didn't really have a problem landing the biggest and best free agent that there's ever been.
Yeah.
So I don't know how big of a problem this would be. And I told JP
Brady
this.
Didn't seem to have a problem with it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I told JP this. I'm sure you saw it. What correlation is there to winning? Because the Chiefs graded out horribly. In fact, their ownership got an F-.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that anytime you put a survey essentially out for opinions, and you've got so many different people with
anonymously,
ideas,
by the way.
People families were voting on the way families are treated, on game days for childcare and that type of thing. But when you open things up for opinions are going to be all over the place, and so you try your best to get a consensus. But if 25 guys think the facility is an A+, and 25 guys think the facility's an F, then you're a C.
Exactly.
That's what it is. So even I believe Shaq's wife chimed in yesterday on the treatment of the families and said, "I'm not really sure what's going on. I see it. I saw it, and I didn't have a problem with it."
Of course.
So
her honey just got cut, and she's like, "This is the greatest organization in the world." Yeah.
Right.
I mean, come on.
I'm never going to say to a guy that, okay, if you had a miserable experience here for one reason or another, I'm not going to sit here and say you don't know what you're talking about, because I'm not in there every day like that. I go into my building every day, and I have my pluses and minuses. But these guys have educated opinions on it, and they talk. They're friends with everyone in the league, and everybody in the league knows who's legit and who's crap.
Right.
And I think that this survey or votes or whatever grades is a way of exposing the crap, if you will.
Well,
and so get your act together.
I think I'm coming down on it this way. This is millionaires bitching to billionaires about getting free childcare. And their personal chef is not up to standard. I mean, shut up, all of you. Shut up. I mean, I don't even want to hear any of this stuff. You guys you're bitching about the cafeteria where the dude makes you wherever you want every single day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Ain't good enough? Really? And you need, 4 hours of childcare on Sunday. They won't pay for it. So you're going to bitch about it, and you're making $5 million a year. Shut up. All of you. Shut up.
Exactly.
I don't want to hear anything. I think it's like a way for the NFLPA to, like you say, embarrass them into making changes. And the funny thing about it, Dan, is these kids are coming from Alabama and Clemson and Georgia, where the facilities are nicer because they don't have to pay the players. They spend,
exactly.
So whatever. I mean, I don't know. The thing that caught my eye was that Todd Bowles got a B-. And that's the only thing that mattered. The rest of it, y'all can fight over. You millionaires and billionaires fight over your personal chefs. That's fine. But that caught my eye Why, and they think that's 26th. And there was who were the guys that were lower, Nick? Ron Rivera,
Josh McDaniels, Ron Rivera, and
I
can't even think of the other guy, but not good.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
That's it. It's odd. I thought that stood out to me as well, and I don't know if that's just a collection of the averages. Maybe there were a bunch of A's, maybe there were a bunch of C's to get that B average. I'm going back to my school days, how I get my GPA, but
that's still a good GPA, B minus, right?
Yeah, I'll take a B minus. Give me a bright scholars. Todd Bowles should be getting a bright scholars scholarship. It seems to me that coaching is pass fail.
Yeah,
I don't think there's such a thing as a B. It's an A or it's an F.
Yeah,
depending on what you think. But I don't know. How do you grade your head coach? I mean, you don't have a relationship with him. I mean, I know we all know Todd Bowles. He's a defensive coach, so he probably has better relationships with the defensive guys. But if I'm an offensive lineman, why do I need to hang out with Todd Bowles? I got my O-line coach and my coordinator. Those are the relationships in the building. The head coach steers the entire vibe and the entire attitude. I mean, if you feel he's falling short in that, or not motivating the team, or not giving fancy halftime speeches, then maybe you give him a lower grade. But I think that let's give Todd Bowles some credit for navigating this team through a minefield. When it got to a point last year when it was going to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
And he helped steer it in the correct direction, I mean.
Yeah.
And so I mean that's higher than a B minus, I would say. But I don't know. Again, opinions.
Yes,
everybody's got them.
And they're anonymous, so it's interesting. I think that how he handled Devin White probably rubbed a lot of the guys the wrong way.
Could have.
But that's
for sure.
Thankfully, that's done and gone, and we're moving forward. Hey, wanted to get your take on. We'll start with the Rays. Spring training is on. Josh Lowe has a hip injury. He's out for 2 weeks, they say, but they expect him back at the beginning of the year. I hate it. Is it just me, or every time the Rays say somebody's out for 2 weeks, they're out for the year?
Yeah, becomes 6 months.
Yeah.
It's a little bit. It was weird yesterday. At the game at Dunedin, this Ahmed Rosario is playing right field, so they could get him into the lineup, and he's supposed to be one of the guys in line when they're trying to figure out this shortstop situation. So I thought that was a little interesting to see him playing out there. I guess he can play any position, but that's the last thing that this team needs. They're solidified in so many spots that they don't need injuries cropping up or creeping up in the outfield to a mainstay guy that they're expecting to have contribute. Last year, it was the pitching. It was one after the next, and they never even got to the starting line. It was baffling, I don't know how these things come into play. How these guys, they're all coming into camp fit. They all pass physicals. They're all doing the same drills and the exercises and lifting, and I just don't know how it happens. But it doesn't. You're right. You at this point you would err on the side of caution and completely rest the guy.
Right.
Not try to rush him at all. I mean, if he's going to miss a month of the season to be completely healthy, I'm okay with that. If this happens in July, now you got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they have time on their hands, but I'm still watching the pitching. Just based on last year's, we all have PTSD from last year, and the pitching injuries that cropped up came into play. Really, first week of the season, 2 weeks into the season, it was unbelievable. So that's what I'm watching.
I didn't get to. Did you go to Dunedin yesterday? I didn't get to see how Pepio pitched, but he was supposed to start yesterday.
I did not. I did see a couple of at bats on video. He gave up 3 hits, no runs, but looked pretty solid. And I think, based on what was said about him last year in Dodgers camp, he's right about where he was last year, and he was on the verge of making the rotation. He had an oblique issue before opening day, and that cost him. It really impacted his entire year. So I think that his focus is to get where he was last year, and I think he should be fine. But that was his first go, and then Zach Littell the day before. He looked really good. And Tyler Alexander pitched 2 days ago, the guy they got from the Tigers. Super guy. He's another guy. I don't know where he's going to fit in, probably the bulk guy.
Mm-hmm.
But so far of the main arms that we're looking at, it's so far so good through one time out for most of these guys.
Hey, I'm just saying, I'm going to put this up here real quick on the stage. There was this, the Rays put this up here yesterday of Ryan Pepio. And I'm just saying, if you squint a little bit,
it's like Tyler Glasnow.
It looks like Tyler Glasnow. Tell me that doesn't look like Tyler Glasnow.
Yeah.
He's got some salad to him. Now, he's not going to be pumping, 99 by any means, but
yeah, it's good.
I'm just saying, he kind of reminded me of him a little bit. And he did pitch pretty well yesterday in that little outing.
Yeah,
I think so. And he's adjusting to the trade. I also had a chance at the Fan Fest to talk to Johnny DeLuca, outfielder, who was also part of the Glasnow trade.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them were blindsided. And so they've both had to get through that, as you do as a pro athlete when you get traded, and embrace, coming across the country to a new club, new everything. And so I think it's gone well. I think Pepio has settled in, and DeLuca as well. DeLuca had a hit the other day, so maybe he could play any of the positions in the outfield, and I think he's a major league ready. I think he's a chance to contribute. That's why maybe the low injury is not as critical, unless of course DeLuca's can't hit much. But as far as playing the outfield, he's going to be a pretty good one.
Oh, yeah, Rosario can bounce into the outfield too. I think he played right yesterday.
Played right yesterday. That guy, something. I the more I read about him, I love him, and the fact that they got him for 1.5,
nothing.
His numbers dipped off a little bit in Cleveland when he was with the Mets. He was rising and rising. So maybe the Rays can, sprinkle the magic dust on him and get that contribution from him, and puts him in a role you can pretty much platoon him, like you're saying.
He crushes lefties. So if he
get him in the lineup,
again, short, just get him in the lineup to just spank lefties. That'll help him out tremendously. Yeah, you mentioned Pepio and DeLuca were blindsided. They're playing at the Dodgers organization, playing at Chavez Ravine, right? They're sitting at Ocean Prime, getting ready to dig into a filet and lobster. The next thing they know, they're sitting at McDonald's. Staring a double cheeseburger in the face.
Mr. Hammond,
I mean, come on.
Dad,
they're like, we're going where?
This man described himself no less than 30 minutes ago as a ham and egger. Yeah, and now he's spouting off about somebody having to adjust from Ocean Prime to eating those ham and eggs.
I don't eat there, but those guys do. And then imagine, they're like Tampa Bay. What? Where do they
That's
even
like
play?
Imagine you're at Ocean Prime and you've ordered I will have the cream spinach. I will have, I will have the mushrooms on that.
Yeah.
And then they just take it away from you when they set it down on your
table. You've been traded to Tampa Bay.
But we do have this ham and egg sandwich for you.
I'm just thinking too. You went to Ocean Prime 2 weeks ago.
I did. I had a nice gift card. That's why I went.
I think I will have the cream spinach. Yes.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. It was, you know what though? It's overrated. So
yeah. Listen, those guys.
I'm not going there. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. The one thing about coming to the Rays organization is you're going to get a fair chance to make it. And this is not a team that has bought its major league roster. So, the Dodgers from top to bottom, you look at it, it's just embarrassing. And you're like, if they don't win the World Series, it's a failure.
Complete.
Whereas the Rays have put together a good little team that performed very well last year under adversity. And so if these guys can supplement that, maybe that gets them over a little bit. But I would think that Johnny DeLuca would get way more chances here.
Hell yeah. Yeah. And Pepio
way more
too.
chances.
Pepio too.
Absolutely.
He may have made their rotation. I don't know. And plus, if you're Ryan Pepio, you're like, look at his offense. I'm going to have to pitch in front of, with the Dodgers. You hold them to 4 runs, probably going to get the dub. Easy.
Right.
Exactly. I think the Dodgers are over-under in Vegas is like 103 wins, which is like the highest in baseball history. So since like the 99 Yankees. And I'm like, wow, that's low. I think you're going to win 120.
I would say you got to be way over that.
Yeah, I would think.
I mean, I know their division has gotten better. The Diamondbacks stunned them last year in the postseason,
Yeah,
but still over the haul of 162. It's not like you're playing Arizona, who got red hot at the right time in a best of 7 series or best of 5, whatever that series was. This is over the haul. The Dodgers are clearly the team that should be winning the most games in baseball. It's crazy. Yeah, if I'm DeLuca and Pepio, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to take my chances over here.
Yeah.
Get on the field. That's what it's about.
That's true, especially for their point of their careers.
Exactly.
I don't know if you saw this, but there was a deep dive analysis done on the new Rays financial plan by a couple of guys from Raymond James that know how these things work and dug into the real cost to taxpayers. And they came up with a number of $2.4 billion is the real cost to taxpayers in Pinellas and St. Pete. And it's just the way they laid it out. And I retweeted it. You guys want to go read it. It's on there, and it really dives into the numbers of what the Rays are getting. They're getting, a market value for the property, $700 million. They're getting it for $155 million. The Rays are not paying any property tax whatsoever under this deal on the 22 acres, which is going to cost the city another $411 million over the life of the deal. You go on and on and on. All these things, it's opportunity cost and what they're going to have to shell out. I mean, $2.4 billion of public money that is at stake here. You cannot make an argument that you're getting that much benefit from the Rays staying in St. Petersburg, especially at a failed location. With these numbers coming out and this kind of analysis, I don't see how anybody on either the Pinellas Board or the St. Pete City Council can vote for this deal. It's such a horrible deal. And it's why the Rays, who never wanted to be in St. Pete, suddenly went, yeah, sure. Sure. You're going to give us this? Sure. Yeah, okay. We'll stay in St. Pete and cash in. Again, it's not my money, but the point being is this stadium deal that everybody thinks is done is far from being done.
Right.
And, we talked to Ken Hagan the other day, and I asked him, I said, is Tampa still in the ball game? And he said, the deal is still on the table, and it's a 30-year deal where they'll make more money over time, but we're not bending over like, this is not his words, but my words. We're not bending over like St. Pete is. It's going to be a public-private partnership that benefits everyone over the long term, not this money grab that St. Pete is giving the Rays. So, I mean, I still don't think it's done. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, you've heard me say many times on this show that I'll believe it when the shovels are in the ground.
Right.
So the optimism is fine. I don't want to squelch people's optimism, but you cannot say it's done until it's done, until you see a bulldozer moving dirt. And I still, like you're saying, to your thought, I think everything's in play still. I thought, the spirit of that exercise those guys did was tremendous. I'm not sure if they went into it trying to nitpick and find. I think when they're crunching numbers, and I would have to imagine at some point they got into it a little bit and went, wait a minute, this is not adding up, which then went to the next level, like you're saying, further down the road. I don't know how much revenue comes into play here to balance that out, or what they're planning to do with revenue. I would have to say
the Rays keep all the revenue. They keep all the revenue in this deal. Like the city makes nothing. There's $1 million. I think it's a $1 million fee per year that the city makes off this deal in terms of Rays revenue. That's it. They get no naming rights, no TV rights, no parking rights, no consent, nothing. They get nothing. The Rays get everything. And then they get to buy the property at like 25% of market value, which is, that's crazy. That's insane, like this deal. And this is the reason why Rick Kreisman and Baker and all these prior mayors could not work with Stu Sternberg, because this is what he wanted. And not until Mayor Welch came along and said, sure, whatever you want. Yeah, you want that? Sure, whatever. Yeah, just please stay, please stay, please stay. Yeah. It's crazy. It's a crazy deal. They can't afford it.
I don't think so. It doesn't look good based on those numbers. Now, I haven't seen reaction from St. Pete at all, and I have to imagine when this comes up in a city council situation that they will ask some questions for sure. But there's nobody seems like there's nobody in the official levels that's pissed off enough to kind of really lead a crusade here. I think they're all just kind of trying to line up and say, "Go team."
I think some
this,
of the
this
council,
exposes
I think
that.
some of the councilmen and county folks have, they haven't seen the final deal, so they can't really. But what they have seen, they have said, this doesn't look right. This really,
Right.
like, we got a lot of questions about this, and so so I think they have said that. And the Rays plan, and I guess the mayor's plan, is to get the final deal to them in April, and then to have a quick vote in May. And and Brian Ald's already putting the pressure on him, like, if you delay this vote, the whole deal goes bad. So it's got so many red flags. It's just ridiculous.
My thing for that land is, and this is ballpark aside, is it is a gem of a piece of land.
Yeah.
In that location, obviously, and a blank canvas to do what you want. They've built up to it. The condos from the north and east. I know you're trying to blend areas. You're trying to assimilate. You cross over. There's different cultures and that over there on that side of St. Pete. And you're trying to blend it and make it, positive for everybody. And hopefully the effect of that, it will spread out a little bit in the surrounding areas. I know when you get into the downtown St. Pete area, it just becomes top of the top.
Yeah.
You go the other direction, they're trying to really kind of refurbish and get the area going here again. I think that's the positive impact from St. Pete's perspective, I think would be the goal, rather than seeing a ballpark put in there. But the ballpark is strictly there to keep the club there. I don't think it's there to make the area better.
No, and that analysis even shows that it makes it worse in a lot of different ways. So we'll see where that goes. Any thoughts on the Lightning? That third period at Philadelphia last week, and Bassi, has had a little bit of a swoon. I don't think it's time to hit the panic button because he had a really nice stretch there. But
I keep looking at the standings, and they're kind of in no man's land right now.
Yeah,
they're 5 points behind a safe spot in the Atlantic. They're 4 or 5 points. I didn't check the games from last night, but they're 4 or 5 ahead of the best teams chasing them for the wild card spot. And Lightning and Red Wings, they kind of been flip flopping in those 2 wild card spots. Here's the scary thing for me: the Lightning have played the most games of all those teams.
Yeah,
by 2, 3, in some cases, maybe even 4 games more than teams around them. So at some point, they're going to have to sit there and watch these teams with games in hand rack up 2 points, 4 points, 6 points. And that's why the Lightning know they need to reel off wins. They're leaning towards being in the postseason for sure. But if they let too many 2 games slumps happen, they will get caught by these other teams with games in hand. New Jersey, Philadelphia, Detroit could even pull away from them. In that sense. So you're looking at a first round series right now against Boston. Got to beat them 4 times in a week. You never know.
Yeah.
But that and the disturbing thing is when you think that they've put it together and they're going to get on a roll, it doesn't happen.
Right.
And I think we've gotten so spoiled here that we've seen the Lightning struggle. We've seen them get out of the gate slow. We've seen them come back from the All-Star break slow. We've seen it many times, and we've always seen them just get it together.
Flip the switch.
And it's just something that's keeping it from flipping the switch. And I'm curious to see what moves, if any, whether they have till next Friday, right, to figure it out.
I think something big's coming. I feel like something big's coming.
You know what? But over the years, they've made very good deadline moves to get them in a position to go for the cup. I just don't know what's left of value
in the cupboard
to bring in something, I don't know, on a rental. They have kind of pecked away at their organization a little bit. When I see guys like Matthew Joseph scoring on them and Ross Colton, these guys and
Carter Verhaeghe,
they had to get rid of over the years. That chips away, and that's why I am happy that like a Tanner Jeannot is kind of locked in a little bit. To me, it makes that trade worthwhile. It's not just a Blake Coleman, come on in, win the cup, and off you go.
They got to get him back.
So they got to get him back on the ice. He's a different presence altogether. yeah, I'm not panicking, but I'm a little concerned about the Lightning right now. That it's going to come down to the last week, 4 or 5 games of maybe having to reel off all wins. And I think their schedule is pretty difficult to finish up. They play Toronto at the end. I know that might be a pretty meaningful game for them.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something to think about. Toronto was in trouble, by the way, until the Lightning went into the crapper there for a little while.
Yeah, they were.
The Maple Leafs were doomed, and now they're comfortably in third.
Yeah.
So it's that's how the season goes, man. We'll see what happens tonight, though. They've got to bounce back from that third period. Yikes, that was terrible.
Yeah, Buffalo tonight. You got to get these 2 at home after having those 2 bad losses at home to end the last homestand. All right, Dano, what do we got coming up on News Channel 8 this weekend?
Well, we're all over the place this week. Getting ready for the IndyCar series next week.
Oh, that's
Can't
right.
wait for that. It's one of my favorite times of the year coming up. That's all next week. And next Saturday, not this Saturday, next Saturday, the 9th, is the Tampa Bay Derby. Little nod to our buddy Chris Thomas.
Yes.
I will take a special interest this year. It's the biggest points race here at Tampa Bay Downs for the Kentucky Derby. And if you've never been to Festival Day, look it up. Go out there. If you like to get up and go booze it all day and just have a blast, that's
and wear
your
a hat.
day.
Yeah.
That's your day. Look it up. But there is a horse nominated. I don't know if it's officially in the field yet, called Buckham Dano. Just finished second in the Saudi Derby in a photo finish. I'm telling you, Dan says it's a lock. Buckham Dano in the Tampa Bay Derby. If that happens,
I'm writing that down. Buckham Dano.
Yes.
All right.
Exactly.
There's all right. Buckham Dano.
Another horse named JP's Laundry. I don't know what to think of that one. We'll see.
Sounds like my divorce, right there.
Exactly.
Everything but the
Buckham
laundry.
Dano.
Yes. All right, partner. Great to chat with you as always. We'll be watching you on News Channel 8. Thanks, bud.
Good.
All right, quick break. When we come back, we'll tidy things up. We've got Dan Orlovsky making crazy statements about the top of the draft. The Lakers were down 21 last night and came back and won. We might talk a little NBA. And what else we got? We've got some college basketball update things that we had to get to as well. So quick break, back in 3. Stay with us. JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA 2-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to geddesgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com or call 813-485-6808.
All right, this is for all you guys who don't want to go to the gym and do 5,000 crunches. At Bay Area Modern Medical Center, you can get on the new True Body machine where you can reduce fat and tone up your muscle. It's like doing 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Define your body as you see fit. True Body offers personalized muscle stimulation that delivers the equivalent of those 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Just get in touch with them at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Chris Lugo and the team over there will set you up on True Body and get amazing results. Non-invasive with comfortable and little to no pain and zero downtime. You can isolate and target those areas that you want to improve and treat multiple areas simultaneously. It's an amazing machine, so check it out at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com.
Is getting a home equity line a good idea right now with rates so high? Well, I put that question to my good friend Scott Fitzgerald at American Mortgage Services, and he says it all depends on where you're at financially. Many of us with ridiculous inflation have been charging up those credit cards, right? At 29% interest, hoping to catch up, but that ain't happening. Those interest payments are killing you. So yes, a consolidation loan and tapping into that crazy equity in your house is a great idea. That strategy can drop your monthly nut by thousands of dollars and stop wasting money on those interest payments. Fitz, the mortgage guy, has done thousands of loans for the past 25 years in Tampa Bay. Just did one for a former colleague who was a manager for a big bank mortgage division. He knows Scott is an independent broker and can get him a way better deal than at his own big bank. AMS Tampa has way lower overhead and gives you the savings. So if you're worried about fees and closing costs, have the free consultation with Scott and look at the actual numbers. It may shock you what he can do. Be smart. Stay one step ahead. Email Fitz at scott@amstampa.com, scott@amstampa, or call 813-294-7595. Scott Fitzgerald, MLS 386-722. American Mortgage Services, 1000 North Ashley Drive, Suite 1020, Tampa.
Let's go.
Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show, brought to you by the great folks at American Mortgage Service. You just heard me talking about Scott Fitzgerald, best customer service out there. If you're looking for a mortgage or a refi, Scotty is your man. Reach him, Scott at AMS Tampa. And the Jane Geddes Group, Geddes Gordon Group. If you're looking for a new property, get back in the real estate game now, folks, because once these interest rates drop even further, everybody's going to be back in that's been sitting on the sideline. Prices are going to go crazy. So get in while you can with the Geddes Gordon Group and American Mortgage Services. All right. Excuse me. I wanted to get to a couple of college things. You mentioned this with the draft that Dan Orlovsky said this morning that Jaden Daniels would be his number one guy. I wondered at what point this was going to start, because I've already heard, some people say the same thing about Drake May, that he should be the number one overall pick that the Bears are looking at. And let's keep in mind that the Bears haven't said that they're definitely going to make that pick of Caleb Williams yet. Of course, the Bears have historically been so bad, never had a quarterback throw for 40 touchdowns or 4,000 yards. Not 40, 30. I think it's even 30. Never had a quarterback throw 30 touchdowns or over 4,000 yards. So they can't get quarterback right. Caleb Williams is sitting there. A lot of people think he's the consensus number one and a quote can't miss. But I think it's far from a done deal. And I think there should be question marks about him.
Yeah, I'm not saying Caleb Williams won't end up meeting the expectations, and I'm not going to root against a kid or anything like that. I just, again, there's like this whole long, drawn-out process of the draft that I just cannot stand, where all these things it allows to get said. And I said this on Monday's show, I think this whole generational tagline that we just attach to prospects. And it's not just Caleb Williams, by the way. And this draft is very unique because the two quote-unquote generational prospects that you hear about are Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. And I guess Brock Bowers on top of that as well. Yeah. I'll set Brock aside for now because I tend to think that he does look a little different.
He to me, of all those guys, is the most can't-miss guy.
Right.
Like I just don't see how he's not going to be a top 5 tight end in this league.
And that's kind of my point. It's like I just don't for one second think that Caleb Williams, and I've started to dive into all three of them, I don't see how he's substantially better, if he is, than Daniels or May. I just don't see it that way. I think that if someone decided to be really bold and pick someone ahead of Caleb Williams, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, they whiffed. I just don't see it that way. It's the same thing with Marvin. Like, do I think Marvin Harrison Jr. too? I think he's the best receiver in the draft. Yes, I think he's probably the most sure bet. But at the same time, Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze and most other drafts are going to be number one receivers. Yeah, no doubt about it. And they're both going to go probably within the top 10 picks, maybe even the top 8 picks or whatever. Yeah. Like, if you'd miss out on the perceived generational guy, I don't think these teams are really going to be hurting themselves in the long run. That's my biggest issue. And to act like Caleb Williams is like polished as could be, again, I don't mean to tear him down. I'm not doing that because there are pluses to his games, but we've mentioned it a little bit. all these crazy plays that we see him make, they're impressive as hell. I'm not
They're
going to
all
tell
off
you they're
script.
not. And there's something to be said about playing off script, but so much of the NFL is about playing on script and playing within the system. And there's things that I think Caleb Williams has passed up, and it shows up on his film. And again, not saying he can't work through those things. Patrick Mahomes worked through those things clearly from what he had in college. But again, it's just that generational word that I keep coming back to that just, I think, bothers me a little bit. I think just we need to settle down a little bit. Throwing that word around.
Problematic because of the position. Quarterback is so hard to predict in the NFL, just because it's such a tough job to do. And I think it's even harder now because these college offenses are so different. Well, I think that the pro offenses are coming closer to the college offenses because they're just not training up quarterbacks, old drop back pocket quarterbacks like they used to. They're hard to find because they're not really doing that in college anymore. And when you do find say a Brock Purdy, it's different. I mean, look what and we devalue that. We devalue a guy who doesn't have the strongest arm, but is great at throwing anticipation and reading the field. I mean, to me, Brock Purdy looks so much like a Joe Montana. They're just very similar in the way they deliver the ball, their size, the way they play, the team they play for. I mean, it's just, but those things aren't valued anymore. Unless you're 6'5", can throw it 80 yards, can run a 4.4, you're not a quote can't miss guy. And I don't know if that's why I think it's so hard to predict guys playing quarterback in this league. It's just different. And we'll see with Caleb Williams, but
he's going to be the number one pick. I mean, whether we agree with it or not, he's going to be the number one pick.
Not according to Dan Orlovsky.
Well, that's Dan's opinion.
Yeah.
Just like we have our opinions, but I would have to think the Bears are pretty set on Caleb Williams because.
Well, what if the Bears aren't making that pick? What if they trade the pick?
They're making that pick.
We'll see.
Justin Fields has not showed enough, in my opinion, to warrant passing up the first overall pick with the shot to take at least one of these 3 or 4 quarterbacks. That's just my opinion on that.
Yeah. I mean, and here's the other thing. The Bears could move back 2 spots and still get one of the 3.
Right.
And
like what if the Commanders,
pick
for
up
example,
an extra 1 and a 3? Who knows?
What if the Commanders, for example, picking at 2, and especially as they hired Cliff, and obviously Cliff worked with Caleb.
Right.
And you have to think that he'd be really enamored with him. What if they really want him so bad?
Yep.
And the Commanders, under new ownership, want to make a splash.
Right.
And by the way, Josh Harris is involved. Whether he should be or not is up for debate. He's involved in everything that's going on at this combine with the interviews. Like, you usually don't see owners.
Guy?
Huh?
The basketball guy?
Correct. Yeah, he's involved in all these interviews, I guess, they're doing at the combine. And I have a feeling that he's going to make the pick. I mean, that's just what's going to happen. The owner's going to make that pick. It ain't going to be Dan Quinn. It's not going to be the GM. He's going to make that pick. You saw what happened last year when a certain other owner decided to make that pick and how that turned out, Mr. Tepper.
Yeah. Yeah, but Bryce Young was the can't miss kid, remember? It wasn't
Correct.
To me. I was.
And after
always
11 games, when it wasn't working out, he
just
decided
too
to
small.
blow up everything.
Right.
Everything.
11 games in. Yeah.
Correct. So, yeah. But my point
Well,
was
the
saying
other
that, though,
problem
is if
with
the
Tepper
Commanders.
Tepper hired a
Commanders.
coach that didn't want the quarterback.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So, basically, my point is saying is if the Commanders decide that they are dead set on Caleb or nothing, I think they would give a ransom to Chicago. And, I mean, hell, Chicago pulled the ransom last year. Why not do it again?
Right. Exactly. And build that roster. All right, a couple other things I want to get to. The Lakers were 21 down last night. 21 down. Did you see this, Nick? And LeBron outscored the Clippers himself and came back and they won the game by 4 points. It's an incredible performance by LeBron. And as much as, we don't talk NBA on this show very much, that was a performance for the ages. I mean, he was in the zone. I watched the highlights this morning. I'm like, damn, at 30, was he 39, right? At 39 years old, this guy, when he needs to get it done, can still get it done. He's as much as I don't like his politics and a lot of these other things that the shenanigans that he does, the dude can still freaking play, man. And at 39 years old, he can dominate a game against the best in the world. The shape that he's in and what he can still accomplish is mind-blowing. is absolutely
there's a
mind-blowing.
thing with LeBron where no matter what the roster around him looks like, or what the situation is, the head coach, I'm never gonna just. It's kind of how it was with Brady, I guess, and some of these other guys. Tiger, the great ones have this quality.
Yep.
It's hard to just completely throw dirt on them, cover them up. It really is. I mean, we forget the Lakers last year, for all their faults, they got to the conference final.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
I mean, you just got to get
won
in
the tournament earlier this year, right?
Right. I mean, you just got to get into the thing, and when you get into the thing, I mean, LeBron's got to be motivated. I mean, to probably get at least one more before he's done with.
You got to take him out.
Exactly.
It ain't that easy.
It's not easy. So, yeah, he's incredible for 39 years old at that sport where it's so much about your athleticism.
Yep.
I don't think it's ever going to be seen again. I really don't.
So a couple other things. I get this NIL newsletter every day, and it's really, really interesting if you're into college sports and what NIL is, because NIL is obviously changing the entire landscape of college sports and everything, not just men's football and basketball, but across the entire deal. I mean, Caitlin Clark, by the way, broke the record last night of all Division I women's scorers. And she's 18 points away from breaking Pistol Pete's record.
Jeez.
And she was amazing last night. And she's must-see TV. She's so good. And her NIL deal is ridiculous. But what was interesting is a couple things. Jackson Dart, the Ole Miss quarterback, signed a deal with a private jet company and can now take free private jet trips anywhere he wants to go in the United States. Question is he taking a private jet to the games now? Is he not going to fly with his team? I'm thinking he will still, but it's like he could if he wanted to. How does that change the whole deal? There was another article about how the NIL is now depleting the depth of the NFL draft because so many. According to NFL scouts and general managers, the 2024 draft class has very little depth, and that has to do with NIL becoming a viable compensation option and thus giving players a reason to stay in school longer. Did you ever think you'd see this? Quote, the NFL released a memo today that with all draft-eligible underclassmen, only 34 names appeared on the list. For reference, over 140 juniors declared in 2019. I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing because I think a lot of players just jump early because they need the money. And now they can stay and develop their games. And I think this would be great for basketball as well because I think too many players jump early for the NBA. They're not ready for it. Their bodies aren't ready for it. They're not good enough. They sit on the bench. They never develop.
Look at like the quarterback position is a good one to point out.
Yeah.
Look at what NIL and the transfer portal and the eligibility and all these type of things has done wonders for so many quarterbacks that like Kenny Pickett, for example, like we laughed that he was always 25 when he came into the NFL. Yeah. Well, he had so much time to stay in college. He turned himself into a first round pick.
That's right.
And it's the same thing this year for, Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix and Bo Nix. The list goes on and on and on. These quarterbacks who otherwise would have been forced to come out 21, 22 years old, when they just were not ready, they were able to stay in college, maybe go to a better situation, a better fit, better program, and turn themselves into a viable prospect and land in a good situation. And now you're getting a jump start on your NFL career a little bit in a really good situation. So I do think it actually has been good in certain situations for the NFL, regardless if you think the depth of these classes isn't there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's good for both college football and basketball.
Yeah.
Another interesting story here on NIL. A slice of the pie is the name of a NIL business that is now being run by Syracuse students. So they're basically going to the athletes at Syracuse and say, "Hey, we'll represent you guys to get deals." As a quote from one of the founders, Brandon Gilbert, said, "The selling point now is, do you want a team of 10 hungry, motivated college students to just email for you every single day, no strings attached, posting up in an apartment every Friday? Gilbert and his team work on branding and finding deals for their clients during the school year." and now they're reaping the rewards. They get their own part from getting deals for us, said Syracuse linebacker David Amapariola. So it's like they just not just chilling. They're actually always working to get us paid. How cool is that? I mean, you want to talk about learning skills in college that are going to help you the rest of your life. These guys are running freaking NIL businesses now, making money and working with the athletes that are there. You know, I mean, the adults that used to take all the money must be looking at this just going, Jesus, they figured it out. Dadgummit, you know.
You can't take advantage of them anymore.
All the money that used to go, you know, from sponsorships that used to go into the program. I think it's great.
Yeah, I do too. Hey, by the way, I was just patrolling the Twitter web here, and I saw this tweet. This is about the report card thing, because you were talking about, you know, some of these players should have seen what it was like back then. Booger chimed in and said, the Bucs have a state-of-the-art facility. If they want to know what poor conditions is like, the group should have trained at the old facility. And then he responded to Greg Allman, and Greg said, probably better they didn't have report cards back in the day there at the old one Buck. And Booger said, I didn't need a report card. 2 words on every line, below standard.
And they won a world championship.
So there you go.
They won a Super Bowl. Yeah, I'm just, yeah. Come on. What are we talking about here? I mean, this is just spoiled kids who've been given everything. And look, I know these guys work hard and they earn their stuff, but come on. I mean, we're making all this stuff public, like the food, you know, having basically your own personal chef make you whatever you want every time you walk into. That's not good enough.
It's not Wolfgang Puck, JP.
Come on now, man. I mean, you're bitching about childcare on a Sunday when you're making $5 million a year. You're bitching about not having your own room. You want your own room? Pay the money, you know. But again, I could point the finger at the Glazers too and say, "What are you doing? Like, how much is enough for you?
Right?
And how much profit do you need to make? You know, an extra 100,000 is going to cover this for the players. It's like again, it's billionaires arguing with millionaires about who's paying for what. I don't care. Shut up.
Yeah,
all of you.
So the Lightning played tonight against Buffalo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. You know, I was gonna say this, by the way. We didn't talk much Lightning today, but you know, I've come to the realization of, and it's a harsh one. I think I'm almost ready to make my evaluation of the Lightning complete at this point. I don't think I'm getting too ahead of myself, JP.
Yeah.
And they are an average hockey team. They are bang average. They are 32-24-5. That means they're essentially 32-29. They have a goal differential of +1.
Mm-hmm.
They're 5-5 in their last 10. Mm-hmm. The only teams in the NHL to give up more goals than them this season is the Murderers Row, known as the Montreal Canadiens, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the San Jose Sharks, and the Chicago Blackhawks.
That's not a list of the elite of.
I have decided that this is just who the Lightning are at this point. They're bang average. There's no consistency to what they do. I don't think this is their year because this is not 88's year. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. I was giving time to see Vasilevsky go ahead and get going a little bit, but I don't see the same lateral quickness in him this year. And maybe that's unfair to ask of that because of the injury. And I'm at the point where I think he probably rushed back from the injury. He just doesn't have it this year. And the Lightning, let's be honest, a lot of the years, let's not act like they had the greatest defensive play in front of him, but he saved the day most of the time.
Right.
He just can't do it this year, and I don't think they have the horses. I don't think making one move at the deadline to get one guy in is going to change this team's makeup dramatically because I don't think there's enough there. Steven Stamkos, for what it's worth, haven't talked much about him. Guess what? Because he's not doing anything. He scored 4 points in the entire month of February. 4 points. He's been statistically one of the worst even strength players in the league for the time of ice that he gets.
Yeah.
Don't want to use the word power play merchant, but pretty damn close to it.
How much you think the whole contract situation pissed him off, is affecting him?
I don't think it's that. I just think he's not the skater he used to be. I think it's that, and I see him shying away from getting into battles on the boards and stuff, and I think that's typical when you age a little bit.
Yeah.
And maybe when he's looking out for another contract, that might go into that a little bit, like you said.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't see the same effectiveness with Stammer. Not saying he's a bad player or anything. It's just not the typical Stammer you would expect. And so, yeah, and I don't know if it's the best strategy at this point with this group to just keep parting ways with your draft capital that you have left or whatever to keep this going at the moment, because I just don't think this is their year. That's just my take on it. Might be unpopular, but
I can't disagree a lot with that. I mean, the numbers are what they are. And you know, when you're talking about hockey and these analyst numbers, you know, this is fact. You want to look at the Lightning and their pedigree and say, okay, they're a better team. They can flip the switch. They can do it. You know, wait till it really their backs are against the wall. That's when they play their best hockey. I can use all those cliches, but what you're talking about is 100% true. Now, I can also tell you, I could have showed you those same numbers, you know, for the St. Louis Blues when they won the Cup. I could tell you the same numbers for the Panthers last year at about this time, and they damn near won the Cup. So hockey's a fickle game, and the playoffs are just a different animal. And the Lightning have the pedigree in the playoffs. I could say, if I was going to counter, I'd say, you know, Vasi is still not back and healthy to where he is. I would agree with that. And the bottom line is, last year and this year, Vasi hasn't been the superhero that we have come to know that he was during the Cup runs. And I've always said this about the Lightning, even when they were winning Cups and they'd go through lulls. They'd go through lulls when he wasn't superhero. And the Lightning need Vasilevsky to be the greatest goalie in the world for them to be an elite team. I think that's just fair. And right now he's not. He's not. And the Lightning aren't. So, and I think is he going to get back into that form? Back injuries, you never know. You just never know. Did he rush back early? He could have. He's just not the same big cat that we've seen.
Right.
And the Lightning either need to pick it up around him or, find a different way to win, because right now he's not that guy. Will he get there by the playoffs? It could happen. We're still 2 months post-surgery, or 2 months, post him coming back. Is that
Around
enough
there.
time? Yeah. Is that enough time for him to get back to that form? Probably not.
It just is what it is. It's just kind of where I'm at with it. Like, it doesn't mean that they're completely, like, they've turned into Pittsburgh all of a sudden. It's not that. It's just,
Right.
I don't think this is their year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Unless something changes, I think that's fair. All right, great job, Nick. As always, we appreciate Dan Lucas joining us. Evan Kolosky is going to join us tomorrow from Channel 10. So we'll get his thoughts on. He's always got a lot of thoughts on the Rays Stadium, the Rays in general, Bucs, Buccaneers. I'm sure he'll have plenty of thoughts on the report card. So we'll chat with him tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.